you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, all three of you, for coming to testify. So, post New START, and we are now in an environment of nuclear proliferation, correct? The three major countries no longer have any treaty to stop any of us from doing anything, from modernizing to creating more nuclear weapons. Isn't that correct?
There have not been any limits on the Chinese, Senator, and
Yeah, there have
now
never been.
there are none on Russia and the United States
right.
once the New START Treaty goes out of force.
So are we not in an environment of nuclear proliferation?
Senator, we are in an environment of potential buildup to more deployed nuclear weapons in two nuclear weapon states, the United States and Russia, and also then in China. So the question then is, will there be additional proliferation to other countries encouraged at this moment to build their own nuclear weapons program? So that's a serious question.
You know, you were asked that question, and I think you responded, and I'd like Admiral Richard to respond to what is South Korea and Japan seeing this uncertainty created by the end of this major treaty, not perfect, but where do you think their views are going to be in terms of their own protection?
Senator, first, I know of no non-nuclear states, allied or not, who have recently announced plans to acquire nuclear weapons. You asked if we are, so I don't know of any proliferation that is actually occurring. I certainly think, particularly our Asia-Pacific allies, are certainly re-examining their own defense needs to include the possibility of them acquiring their own nuclear weapons. We certainly have long-standing history and have had successful extended deterrence commitments to both of those, and there are still options available to us to continue to maintain those.
Well, when I talk about nuclear proliferation, I'm talking about the three major countries, although Iran has its nuclear ambitions. I'm talking about China, Russia, and U.S. It's bad enough that we're in what looks like an environment where the three major countries with nuclear weapons do not have any constraints. So should we be pursuing a treaty with Russia? And you know, there's some discussion about whether there should be a parallel way to pursue diplomatically a treaty with Russia and China together, or Russia and then China. I'd like to get that clarified, because I sense that maybe we're not going to be able to get into a treaty that involves all three countries. We may need to pursue separate treaties with Russia and with China. Do Ambassador and the Admiral have any further points on that?
Senator, I'll just offer that I don't know how China could be moving much faster independent of treaties that we do or don't have on ourselves. Russia seems to be very capable of going around the New START Treaty to add capabilities that are capabilities and capacity that are not constrained by the treaty. I would certainly encourage arms control negotiations between the U.S., Russia, and China effort to put some limits on that.
If I may very briefly, Senator, I would just say, as a negotiator, I like to keep things simple and straightforward. I believe that we must negotiate with the Chinese. We must negotiate with the Russians. I would do it in parallel. I'll tell you one reason is that the Russians just this morning said very clearly, as they have repeatedly, if you insist on a trilateral negotiations, we want UK and France at the table as well, the P5, all of the nuclear weapon states under the NPT. That is a very complex negotiation, and I think that we can make progress with Russia and with China on parallel tracks.
Thank you. For one last question for Admiral Richards. You were in charge of the command that you had to certify our modernization efforts, et cetera, without having to actually do kinetic testing. Do you think that we need to actually do kinetic testing of our nuclear weapons in order to to confirm that they are ready to go, if that's a way of putting
Senator,
it?
I stand by my certification of the nuclear weapons complex under my command as not requiring explosive testing. However, at the same time, I also, in every one of those certifications, noted that we need to have test readiness improve from what it currently is, should conditions develop requiring us to consider testing. And those are not just technical, they could be political. And so, yes, I saw nothing during my time on active duty that caused me to doubt the safety, security, and surety of our nuclear weapons complex under the current testing regime. But I also saw a future where we needed to have test readiness in case those conditions change.
One more question in that regard, Mr. Chairman. Who would authorize such kinetic testing?
That's ultimately a presidential decision, if I understand it correctly.
Thank you.
What sort of changes might necessitate that, Admiral?
Senator, first, when we had some background discussion in terms of the number of tests that we have done in the past, which forms a pedigree for us to continue the stockpile stewardship program. But as our weapons age and go beyond their design lifetimes, there are a number of effects, aging effects, that you may bump into the limits of your science to understand and predict where they're going to go. So there are both technical reasons, and I alluded to political reasons, actions by your opponents, both of which may make it advantageous to us to reconsider